Okay, good evening, everybody. So today I will be presenting the session on brain region segmentation, how we can leverage 3D CNN architecture to leverage to do the brain region segmentation accurately. This is used for detecting the brain tumors or any damage to brain during the accident or any other brain uh, functionalities. So yeah, let's get started. So this is the overview of today's presentation. So we will just introduce briefly the CNN and what is the brain lesions, overall architecture of the network, cost functions, then what are the parameters, what are the parameters that are required to create a deeper network, and we'll finally see the conditional random fields, so which is used for regularization, and then finally the results of our results. So let's get started. So uh, as we can see, 1D CNN acts on a one-dimensional array. We move the kernel weights from 0th position to the nth position, and these weights convolve with the input array and create the output. So this is a simple 1D convolutional network. So in a similar way, there can be a 2D convolutional network where we convolve around the width and the height of the input array. That is, this is usually used with the 2D CNN, though image depth is represented here. Image depth can be color of the image with RGB values. So but we don't convolve around the depth of the image. We convolve around only the width and height of the image, even with three-dimensional. Even if the input image has 3D, but where the third dimension is the color of the image. So, so what is a 3D CNN? Suppose we have a three-dimensional image, which we will see how uh, we can see it. So basically, a three-dimensional image uses a pixel. So this is suppose a 2D image. So fundamental unit of a 2D image is a pixel, whereas fundamental unit of 3D image is a voxel. So here we can see uh, this is, so this one has actual the width, the height, and the depth also in a voxel. So this unit is called a voxel, similar to what is called pixel for 2D images. So these are mostly used in the MRI scan, where we scan uh, the brain in the MRI, and it creates a three-dimensional image. So since brain or human skull is a three-dimensional structure, so it gives both the height, width, and depth in a three-dimensional image. And color is the, or intensity is the fourth dimensional in case of the brain MRI images. So that is the basic idea of using the voxel. Yeah, that is a basic idea behind creating the three-dimensional image, and obviously we will require a 3D CNN to go to convolve around a 3D image, and this can be used to extract the feature maps of a 3D image, and this is very useful while creating a 3D image segmentation. So we'll see what are the things. So let's get back to the basics of some medical terms. So what are the lesions? So brain lesions are described as a destruction in any part of the brain. So it may be due to the accident or any natural process. I suppose somebody has brain tumor or something, that is also called as lesion. But initial damage may not cause initial symptom, but progress of such lesions may cause physical and mental damage. So it is very important to detect the brain tumor when it is small, uh, and before it starts spreading across and gets bigger in the brain and causes the permanent damage or injury to the person. So it is very important to detect such brain lesions early, and we will use show how we can do that in this particular presentation. So challenges in detecting the brain tumor or brain lesions. So as you can see, it is a 3D image and very difficult to figure out which part of the brain is uh, damaged. So here are the these are basically the known. Sorry, these are basically the known images where doctors have manually pointed out the brain lesions. So as we can see, the intensity of the healthy part and the intensity of the non-healthy or lesion part is overlapping. So it is very difficult to figure out which part of the brain is having lesion, and it is very important to detect this lesion very early. Uh, yeah, so there are, it is quite a large area of the brain if we consider a 3D image. Okay, just a moment. My mouse is not working suddenly. Yeah. Okay, right. So far, I hope there are no questions. So here is our baseline network. In our baseline network consists of 4 layers of 5 by 5 by 5 kernel for feature extraction, leading to the receptive field size of 17 by 17 by 17. So the classification layer is implemented as a convolution with 1 by 1 by 1 kernel. So this is at the end of the, this is at the end, this is a classification layer. So this enables efficient dense inference when the network segments an input. It predicts multiple voxels simultaneously. So we have to predict multiple part of the voxels simultaneously, and number of feature maps and their size is depicted in number into size. So this is our baseline network.
Yeah, actually, could you just overview that one again? Baseline,
Which one?
the baseline network.
Yeah, so basically there are 4 layers, 5 by 5 by 3 kernel for feature extraction. So finally the classification layer, and we have to classification layer in the sense that which voxel is shows the damaged part and which voxel shows the uh, uh, I mean non-damaged part, healthy part. So this is basically the idea. So
So what is the advantage of actually using 3D CNN versus a 2D CNN, which we are normally used to?
Yeah, so 2D CNN can be used on 2D images, but since this is a 3D images, we have to run the 2D CNN in the third dimension also, because since the voxels are three-dimensional, the 2D CNN may not give the most optimal results, and therefore their accuracy is less as compared to when we use the 3D CNN.
MRI scan will look like a X-ray image, isn't it? So
It's
where
not
is the third
exactly.
dimension?
No. The MRI scan images have three dimensions.
Okay. So they are digital information. They are not a printable, X-ray kind of sheet, right? They are not 2D.
Not exactly. Means there is a third dimension in the form of depth uh, that we can
Okay.
visualize the third. I mean,
Hmm.
but yeah, three parts of the brain. One the from the each of the directions, but from top and side. That will be two dimension, and third is from the depth wise. Okay. So here is what happens for each layer consists of CL feature map. So as we can see in the previous one, so each layer will give the CL feature maps, and this equation for where K is the kernel dimension, K is the kernel dimension, and Y is the previous output of the previous layer. B is the bias. So this mth FM layer, feature map layer, can be shown as follows. So previous layer input with kernel, and previous layer input, previous layer feature maps, and previous layer inputs in multiplied by kernel size and a bias. So this is basically the equation. So the classification of now this classification layer will have the C classes final. Suppose there are multiple types of lesions, then it will create a C classes. Uh, for the simple image, it may be the two classes, but for complex images, it may be the three classes or more. So this and the output layer here is a softmax layer. Where? So this is creates a softmax layer here at the output, which uh, creates the probability of the classes on for which we have to predict the segmentation. So, I don't know, somehow when I show it in this presentation mode, that mouse doesn't show and I get a little confused. So, okay. So this is the probability of having a particular voxel uh, uh, for the which is belonging to the class C. So this
So when you say the word voxel, voxel
hmm,
is a three-dimensional version of the pixel. Am I right?
yeah.
Okay. So it won't be just for a voxel. The probability classification would be for the entire image, right? Not just for a voxel per se. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, that is, but we have to do the segmentation, right? So we have to figure out uh, for for each voxel which class it belongs, right?
Oh,
So
you're doing this for each voxel, not just the entire image.
yeah, voxel wise, right? So some for example, we have this YOLO V3, no, YOLO V3 is object detection, but Mass RCN and they do pixel wise segmentation, right? Or FCN
Right,
net.
right.
Yeah, so similarly, this is voxel wise segmentation where we find out what is the class of each voxel, whether it is healthy or lesion class.
Okay. Voxel is a three-dimensional visualization of a pixel. That's the difference.
Yeah. So suppose we have this.
So if I have 1000 voxels, I need to do 1000 predictions.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where this brain MRI, because even if you for brain MRI scan, even if you get few of the voxels wrong, so the brain is very uh, sensitive and small object. So even if you get 1 or 2 millimeter of it as a wrong prediction, suppose somebody has a brain tumor which is 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter, but if you predict 12 by 12, then doctor will try to cut that tumor in that dimension, right? So it is a very dangerous thing to uh, not predict voxel is accurate. So it's very
Right.
important that we uh, predict each and every voxel very accurately and find out what is the error. So I think there is one question here. So that depends on our training of the program. So this deep medic is capable of as I have seen the demo program that can predict up to 5 classes of brain lesions for each voxel. There are different types of lesions, so it can predict up to 5 this demo program. Right. So, so so neighborhood of voxel in the input that influences the activation of neuron is the receptive field. So receptive field is nothing but if we consider a neuron, if you consider a voxel and what are the areas around it. So uh, that is the receptive field. So suppose we have receptive field, suppose we want to predict the input dimensional delta in, and this for the receptive field size will be delta in minus phi L minus tau in. So this phi and tau are nothing but the tau is given by product of strides of kernel in the layers, right? So this is nothing but the stride of the kernel.
So these
So
last two equations are not becoming clear. The
hmm,
first two are clear. They are like usual CNN. The last
hmm.
two, what's going on in the second last equation, that phi L? Yeah,
So
what
phi
is
L
XYZ?
basically, huh?
What is XYZ?
XYZ is nothing but the dimension of the kernel. Uh, so here the dimension of the stride. So XYZ is suppose you have a voxel. So what are its location?
Okay.
So
Okay.
its size phi L increase subsequent layer L given by three-dimensional vector. So this is nothing but a vector XYZ.
Hmm.
Phi L XYZ is a vector. So it depends on the previous XYZ multiplied by K is the vector X, K is the size of the kernel and
Hmm.
tau is the stride of the receptive field. And this is
Got
a
it.
three-dimensional thing.
Got it.
So this is the receptive field. Receptive field means area surrounding the voxel. Okay, so yeah, again now the cost function. The cost function is nothing but this B is so CNNs are trained in the batches, right? So suppose I is a ith patch in a batch. So in a batch, we create a patches of parts of the images, and CNN is trained on the patches. So here we are going from B patches, where probability y is equal to c is our class, and I see. Yeah, so phi is basically nothing the ground truth. So which basically 1 by b from I to b probability of Ci. This is our cost function. So basically we are comparing the ground truth versus the actual truth and trying to find out the log of this equation PC classification layer. What is the difference? So this is our cost function. We try to find the difference between the ground truth and our predicted output, and try to find out the difference and then create our back
So
propagation.
this is basically the classical negative log likelihood function, right?
Yeah,
So so if you put negative, it becomes a loss, but if you remove negative, it is likelihood estimation, or you want to maximize that. But if you put negative, it becomes a loss, and you have to minimize that. So this is the
yeah,
usual negative log likelihood, I guess.
yeah. This is similar to classic CNN, only it is three-dimensional. So whatever we see in 2D segmentation, that is expanded to the 3D segmentation in this particular case. So dense training is nothing but this is a fully connected CNN class. So uh, we try to create the loss function for the fully connected uh, asset segment of a batch. INS are the asset segment of the batch, and true labels. It's V predicted voxel respectively. So C is truth label, V is of the Vth voxel. So yeah, so this is the true label, this is the predicted label, and we try to find out the overall loss for the uh, output. This is similar to classic CNN.
So here you are
Only
doing a cumulative loss function for all the voxels,
yeah,
right? So okay.
right. So how to build a deeper network? So to optimize, since this is 3D CNN, the trainable parameters are very high. So in order to optimize this build a bit deeper network. We reduce the 5 by 5 kernel with two successive layers of 3 by 3 kernel. So I think it is done similar in the inception also, where it reduces the 5 by 5 kernel to 3 by 3 kernel, thereby reducing the number of parameters, trainable parameters. So it reduces from 200K to 86.4K, and convolutions are a lot cheaper. So multi-scale pathways. So in order to optimize our network, or just to find out more type of features or more type of outputs, so we can create a multi scale pathways where we can give the input image to multiple paths and of the CNN, and finally aggregate or on their output, and so this way we will get a more optimized result and more accurate results.
So Neeraj, in efficient net, you achieve the same thing with spatial pyramid pooling, right? Multi-scale
Yeah,
detection. So here you are using different CNN pathways instead of spatial pyramid pooling, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So here basically the inputs of two pathways are centered as same image. Second is segment is extracted from downsampled version. So this is 25 by 25 by 25 image, but this is 19 by 19 by low resolution image. So this is a low resolution image. Actual area of 51 by 51 by 51 voxel. So this 11 layer architecture results by replacing each layer pathways to that of 3 by 3 kernels. So since 5 by 5 kernels are very big, we use 3 by 3 by 3 kernels. So that will reduce the calculations. So now let's come to what are the I'll just give brief overview of what is the Markov random field. So Markov random field is nothing but what are the probabilities of each of the state. I hope you know the basic uh, Markov theory and all that. So yeah, so this basic, it's there are four states and probability of A going to B, going to C, going to D. So these are basically the probabilities. So final probability of state A at A, B at B, C at C, D at D is given by multiple probabilities by calculating each of the probabilities and calculating their aggregate at the bottom. So whereas the conditional random field, there are certain conditions restricted where we have the pathways, previous conditions already implemented. For example, for y the input is x1 and for y2 the input is x2. So if you want to create a conditional probability, so from y1 to y2 but where the previous state is x1, here the previous state is x2, and for final the previous state is x3. So we have the conditional probabilities for getting the output at each stage. So this is much more efficient, and this is widely used in NLP actually to find out the conditional probabilities.
I mean,
So
is
this
this simply the Bayes formula? Bayes
Yeah,
conditional probability. Okay.
similar to what Bayes formula is, but they use
Right.
a little different. So output is mm, mm, this is fully connected layer and conditional random fields uh, are class of discriminant monomer neighboring state is affected to previous state. So basically this is used to final mm, at the final stage to create a label for each voxel. So this can be uh, this is at a final stage, I mean, sort of a regularization technique where each voxel is predicted according to the what is the state of the uh, voxel at the adjacents for the adjacent voxel.
But how did it help over your usual, the negative log likelihood function?
Yeah, so this will optimize at the negative log likelihood function, right? So at the function, after that we give the conditional CRF uh, field, and that will optimize the actual output, right? Parallel path. Yeah, so basically for each voxel, whatever we are getting, it will try to find out what is the neighboring voxel prediction, and accordingly it will adjust the prediction of the current voxel. So this is what is happening over here.
Okay, so it will sort of smoothen the segmentation boundaries, right? It
Yeah,
says that in the second line there, right here, that so it will try to smoothen the segmentation boundary
the
rather
neighborhood
than treating
is
each
not
voxel
modeled.
separately.
Yeah, so okay, so result. Mm, yeah, so as we can see over here, so this one here, this is without the CRF, and this is with CRF deep medic. MRF is manually labeled and predicted. So this is manually labeled and this is predicted one. So here we can predict, it's pretty accurate prediction over here. So here this blue part, this part is not predicted accurately over here. Where is going to the next one? Hmm. So performance. So there are various methods that can be used for prediction. So random forest plus CRF uh, method is described over here. This is Q's So this is this one. Yeah, for this random forest for this precision and accuracy. So deep medic per CRF is giving this much of results. So this is a flare image. This is ground truth. Then this is manual. This is deep medic. This is deep medic plus CRF segmentation. So as you can see, deep medic plus CRF gives very close to the ground truth results. So this is based on the performance on the BRATS dataset. BRATS dataset there is a competition held every year for uh, datasets, and this was on uh, 2015 dataset. So they got one of the best results here, DeepMedic plus CRF. So ensemble means ensemble of multiple techniques. They can use UNet or other types of mm, networks for creating segmentation, but and then they create ensemble of. But the calculation cost of ensemble networks is very high, whereas this deep medic they have optimized to calculate with lower computing power. So here is a sample of BRATS dataset segmentation. So this is manual segmentation, and this is deep medic plus CRF. So this is also very accurate results. Then Iceless dataset. So again, Iceless is a different. I think different. These are university-based datasets. So different universities have their own datasets, and they create the segmentation. So this is deep medic based, and this is deep medic plus CRF based. So here is the feature map that we can. So here at each stage, what are the observations? What are the various features that are extracted that can be seen over here? So first row G-scan deep medic segmentation. Second row feature map of earlier and third row. So second row, these are the feature maps. Fourth row feature learned from low resolution pathway. So fourth row is feature learned from low resolution pathways. So we have the downsampling and we find out the features. Last row FMs of the two last hidden layers which combine multi-resolution features towards final segmentation. So these are the feature outputs of the final last two hidden layers. Yeah, so any questions on any part?
Yeah, it's a fascinating paper. At one point, I think Neeraj was trying to implement our product on MRI lesion detection in our product team, but I think we ran into some collab issues, right? So we couldn't proceed with it.
Yeah.
But the paper is fascinating. So, audience, any questions? You have a code demo also? I
Code
think you were
demo?
able to run on a toy data set, right? Or it wasn't even running on toy data set.
No, toy data set was there. Oh, I think I have deleted that part.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so audience, any other questions? So we don't see 3D CNN a whole lot. This is one of the first models we have seen. We have seen a few in our AI lab before, but not that many. So because most of the stuff can be done with 2D CNN, such as X-ray or CT scan, but MRI happens to be a three-dimensional data. Now I have a question here, Neeraj. I don't know if you know the answer to this question, because in 2D CNN we have a third channel, which is the color channel RGB. So actually a
Yeah.
2D CNN is having a third channel because of the
Yeah.
three colors RGB. Now in case of
Yeah.
a voxel 3D CNN, will there not be a fourth channel for RGB color?
Yeah, there is fourth channel.
So in 3D CNN, fourth dimension, right? The color dimension.
Yeah, color dimension is the fourth dimension in case of 3D images.
So here also there is a color dimension. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So it will have to convolve over the fourth dimension also, or channel as we call it.
No. See, if we see the 2D, this is a color dimension. For example, even 2D CNN with color, they convolve in height and width also. So even if there is a third dimension in the 2D image, still it convolves in two directions, height and width, to extract the features. The main idea is to
Right.
extract the features. Where are the curves? Where are the boundaries of two different objects and all that?
Hmm.
So there are. I
So it
haven't
does
seen.
take care of the third color with third depth dimension. You are showing the third depth dimension. That is the color RGB color dimension. So I'm
Yeah,
assuming
that
in
is for
3D
2D.
CNN also you will have a fourth uh, dimension, which is the color channel
Yeah,
RGB or B, right? So
yeah.
okay, okay, sounds good. 3D CNNs also find usage in video analytics because there is a time concept or temporal dimension in video analytics with successive image frames. So they are also 3D CNNs can be used across using time or temporal as the third dimension for video particularly. Even there is something called PET scan, PET scan. I think that also has a 3D data set, and so is the infrared frequency. Yeah, I think the infrared frequencies in PET scan create the third dimension. Or so we don't see that many multi-dimensional data sets.
Yeah, I think it has tomography.
Yeah, it has multiple dimensions, so there also you can use 3D CNN.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so audience, any other questions? Okay. Okay, so if there are no other questions, so thanks, Neeraj. A interesting session and presentation, and look forward to your next sessions. Audience,
Yeah.
thanks for joining. And this recording will be available on our YouTube channel in a few days. And you can also review the paper which has been referenced. Okay, and we'll see if we can create a blog on it on Selstrat blog website. Thanks once again, Neeraj. Thank you, audience, for joining. I will see you in our future sessions. Have a good night
Right.
or good day, as the case may be.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thanks.